Okay, hello, this is Wmpyr here to talk about the movie The Hunted once again. This time, not a review of the movie, more about the knife, actually. I just saw a video, says interview with the original designer of the tracker survival knife, Rob Russin. And the YouTube channel is Utah Knife Works. Okay, wow, watching this video was an eye-opener. And yeah, I had heard back in the day that the Tom Brown Jr. co-designed the tracker knife with someone else. Okay, I had heard that. I didn't know that the true designer was Rob Russin. And the just watching the video and seeing how they were the father and the son. The father's a designer. The son is also uh, became a knife designer, and both of them are designing knives together and collaborating together, and trying to get the dad, the credit that he deserves, and how he was hurt, how he felt ill when he found out that this knife was featured in the movie The Hunted, and he got no credit for it. I mean, I could absolutely understand. And then the integrity to decide not to sue them. Yeah, to me, this was a heartfelt video, and it's one of the reasons why YouTube, to me, is amazing, is because of videos like this. So I highly, highly, strongly suggest that you watch it, and of course, watch the movie. The Hunted, that film, which is crappy title just because there's other movies called The Hunted, and one with I think it was Christopher Lambert, The Hunted. That's a good movie. Um, but yeah, totally different. So anyway, The Hunted film. This is the one with Tommy Lee Jones and also Benicio del Toro, and to this day, it's the movie that I recommend to people if they're interested in Filipino martial arts. If you kind of want to know what Filipino martial arts is, I say watch The Hunted. Now, I know Professor Bram Frank, who is the same Filipino martial arts lineage as me, and oh gosh, I hate saying that because that sounds like I am in the same affiliation, same organization, and I'm not. I'm in none of those things. It was just his teacher, Professor Remy Presas, was my teacher's teacher. That's it. That's all. But through it, when I study his methods and stuff, and he has been very kind, showing a lot of support to my YouTube channel over years, many years. He has. And I can see oh, yes, we are from the same lineage because of the techniques and stuff, the strategy. His knife made perfect sense to me, like right away. Even though I didn't understand it fully right away, I was like, this knife makes sense to me, because I was like really into the palm stick at the time. And so that was like around 2006. And that's when I started my YouTube channel. So anyway, back to the film The Hunted. Professor Bram Frank is not a big fan of the movie The Hunted. But that being said, the reason why I tell people watch The Hunted if they want to know about Filipino martial arts is because there is no other movie at that class, at Hollywood level production, that showcases Filipino martial arts, in a lot of it. There's tons of movies out there that show bits and pieces or Filipino martial arts mixed in with other styles, but they never, really come out and say it. The Hunted, they don't come out and say it, but it's never said in the movie, this is Filipino martial arts, this is Kali. And they never say it, but a lot of people, when you see the making of or behind the scenes, they know that it's Kali. My one gripe is that Filipino martial arts contains a lot of stick work. And in fact, when I teach it, I don't care if your goal is to become a knife expert, I will start you with the sticks. So the sticks is huge, and the sticks is not shown in The Hunted. the stick training. So that, to me, that's unfortunate. So people can get the wrong idea from it. But as far as Filipino knife work, that movie shows Filipino knife work. So that is the movie. And because of it, I'd say that is the Filipino martial arts movie in a Hollywood grade budget production. And there's just no other. Another good film is Arte Grande. Um, Unfortunately, that movie is so obscure. It's so rare. Good luck finding that, but it's awesome. And I was surprised that that's actually FMA in there. I thought it was a Brazilian system. No, it's FMA. And if you're wondering about that, talk to Professor Bram Frank. He'll give you the inside scoop about that. He even gifted one of his knives to the actor that plays Hermes, which is an amazing role. But anyway, let's go back to The Hunted. So The Hunted, another gripe I have with The Hunted, the film, is that we got no stick work, and the other thing is the knife being used. And that's what this video is about, the knife, okay? The knife that was designed by Rob Russin. Amazing knife. When I watched this video, I liked the knife even more, the design. Before it was just like a really unique and cool looking knife, but that really doesn't do it justice. And then I heard all kinds of people talk about, and say all kinds of things about the knife, but after watching that video, the interview with Rob Russin made my appreciation for the knife went even higher, okay? The problem I have with The Hunted is because that knife is not a Filipino martial arts knife. It is a tracker knife. It is a wilderness survival knife. It is, right? That's what that's for bushcraft survival, that kind of thing. And for me, that's just like, okay, why didn't they use a Filipino martial arts knife for the film? They're using Filipino martial arts in it. Why not use a Filipino martial arts knife? And that's a big part. That's a big question, I think. And part of it, you could say, hey, let's look at First Blood, Rambo 1. Okay, that movie was probably the reason why I fell in love with knives, because of that movie. When I saw that movie as a kid in the 80s, I was like, that's it. The knife is the modern day sword. That knife is your best buddy. The knife that's something you could, like, not to quote Conan, but this you can trust kind of thing, How could you not like it? But Rambo being this special forces guy, and if you look at The Hunted, very, very similar story. In my opinion, extremely similar. So they used the survival knife in Rambo. And so they're using a survival knife in this movie. It makes sense. Maybe that's why. I wish they had gone and portrayed a Filipino martial arts knife to fully promote and endorse Filipino martial arts. But they didn't. Could it have been because, well, the director or the producers were like, no, this is going to be Filipino martial arts and tracking. We're bringing in two things that the public may not be familiar with, and we're introducing them to two of those things, not just one. So then, okay, I can see why they split it, right? I get that, all right? But it's unfortunate. Why? Because once again, Filipino martial arts is not really portrayed on the Hollywood screen, where it's fully. A lot of y'all have seen Filipino martial arts in Hollywood movies, but you just don't know it. A lot of the choreographers, a lot of the fight scenes have Filipino martial arts in there. There's tons and tons and tons of movies. And that goes back to Bruce Lee and his number one student, Professor Danny Inosanto. That influence right there. Bruce Lee making it into Hollywood, and then Professor Dan Inosanto being Filipino. So because of those two reasons right there, you're seeing a lot of Filipino martial arts in Hollywood. You just don't know it. That's sad. So in a way, it's kind of cool. It's behind the scenes. It's always like underground in a way. So I can live with that. But anyway, so in the film The Hunted, if they were to use a Filipino martial arts knife, what would it have been? Historically, I think it could have been a very high chance a balisong. That's not the only knife that they had over there, but the balisong became very famous. Why they didn't go with the balisong, I could think of two reasons. Number one is because it became illegal, notorious for gangs back in the 80s or before that using knives such as the balisong. And we're talking about gangs as in not like today's gangs where they do drive-bys. I'm talking about back then, the gangs of back then, like in the movie The Warriors, that kind of gang. Very different from today. But those guys would be using something like a butterfly knife, balisong. So bad reputation, and it's illegal. So I get it. The other thing is the balisong is now very, very famous for its trick flipping, and you're playing around with it, that kind of thing. So, and now I think more than ever we see trainers. A little while back, I remember in the early '90s, I didn't see any trainers for balisong. Not saying that they didn't exist, but I didn't see any advertised. So now things have changed. And I could see those two things could really, really distract away from what the movie's trying to do, tell the story and showcase Filipino martial arts and Filipino knife work. It could take away from that because the average person's going to be like, they may not think, isn't that a gang knife? Because that's not today, but they'll definitely think, isn't that a knife for like tricks? Isn't that a knife more like for show? So that would go against the movie because the movie is about a special ops guy who is a knife expert, who's pretty much an assassin. But anyway, what other knife? Well, the knife that I recommend frequently, I've done many reviews on my YouTube channel, is Professor Bram Frank's knives. The Lapu Lapu Corto, the LLC knife. That would be great. That would totally work. Now, I don't know if the Sayak Kali, because that was the style that was used in The Hunted, if they had recommended, oh yeah, there's a Filipino knife. It's called the LLC knife. You guys should use that in this movie. And I don't know if the director-producer was like, no, we don't want to. We don't want to do that. We want to use a tracking knife. Because of the reasons I said before, because of the movie Rambo, or they wanted to showcase tracking, so Filipino martial arts and tracking. So they wanted to make it more evenly distributed, I guess, or whatever. So that got me thinking. Okay, because of Rob Ruslan, his design for the tracker knife is to me is genius because his main idea was. Normally, people who do like wilderness survival stuff, people who do bushcraft stuff, they have multiple knives. And that's what the beginning of the video was talking about, that you had multiple knives depending on, what you were doing. So some was like for skinning, another would be, more chopping type of blade, and then another would be, something else. So you had different blades, is what he was saying. So he wanted to kind of like, it's kind of a pain to carry a bunch of that every time you go out. So it's like, just carry one that has it all, kind of like a Swiss Army knife. So I was like, okay, that makes sense. That for sometimes that would be, if you want to just go light as possible, and you just go like that. It's been criticized where people say, well, that tracker knife, it does a bunch of stuff mediocre. Well, you know what? Look at a Swiss Army knife. That's what the thing is. It makes sense to me. It's kind of like an MMA fighter. They could do stand up, they could do clinch, they could do ground. You don't necessarily have to be uh, world class Olympic level in all three of those. So it's about being versatile. It's about being um, like a multi-tool. So that made sense. I like that idea. So then that got me thinking, what if we designed a Filipino martial arts knife? Okay, so if they ever make another movie where they go, okay, it's going to be all Filipino martial arts, not Filipino martial arts and tracking. No, it's going to be just Filipino martial arts. Okay, and in it, we're going to use a Filipino knife. Okay, so a knife designed for Filipino martial arts. Perfect, perfect. How would this knife be? And using the same um, direction, the same way of thinking as Rob Russon, I would say, well, then we look at the techniques in Filipino martial arts, and we want the knife to feature all of those techniques. So think of a blade that can cut specific area of the body. Okay, so we're talking about something that you could use kind of like more for fencing type purposes, and then something that would also be good for slashing type purposes. Something that would be good for we're talking about limbs, and then something that would be for the torso, and then something that for the head. So those are all going to be parts of the knife will have that, just like the tracker knife has that. The tracker knife has at least 1, 2, 3, 4, possibly 5 major features on there. 5 major features, and each one of those features is designed to do a specific thing. And that's just the average tracking knife. When I saw it, there was actually some more detail in there that they mentioned, that it also does this. It also, can do, the original one does this, an evolved version, the improved version can do this. They added even more features on the later versions. So, yeah, we would have those kinds of features. Every single one of those features would be for Filipino martial arts techniques. Because now what I'm seeing is we have a knife, and then of course it's going to have when you talk about like a multi-tool knife, it has like a bottle cap lifter. You have an area for hammering, which is also good for hammer fist, of course. You have a glass breaker, which also could be used for combat, and same with the hammering. But then you'll have like a cord cutter. Those kinds of things, I'm saying, yes, that makes the knife versatile, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I'm saying let's have one where it's not emergency rescue, whatchamacallit, and like wilderness survival type situations. I'm saying all of it is for combat. Every single thing on the knife is for combat. That is what I personally would like to see. And that's just going with Rob Russon's idea, because that's what he did. But it was for survival purposes. It was for the wilderness purposes, for what he used the most. And he just got all of that and put that in there. I don't think he was thinking, in a self-defense situation. I don't think that's what he was thinking. Of course, it's a knife, so of course it could be used for that. But it was all about, this bushcraft wilderness survival stuff, and that's what he designed it for. So I want to see a martial arts knife where it's all about just combat, martial arts techniques. So anyway, that's it for now. Thank you for viewing, and take care, folks.